Our notorious Obi-Wan Kenobi had been seeing some downtime in the Star Wars franchise. Even though he had a superb run with the earlier two series where he delivered some amazing acting, the British actor took a hiatus from displaying his acting chops, at least from good old Star Wars. Even though now he has his own standalone series on Disney+, we got to know the actor would have returned sooner in The Last Jedi. Starting off, Obi-Wan Kenobi almost had an appearance in The Last Jedi. As the Star Wars sequel trilogy premiered, rumors regarding returning characters were at an all-time high. Anything seemed imaginable, from Hayden Christensen returning as Anakin to Ewan McGregor returning as Obi-Wan as a Force ghost. In the end, neither of these characters appeared. Director Rian Johnson, on the other hand, said that he wanted Obi-Wan to return to Star Wars The Last Jedi, but wasn't sure if Ewan McGregor's rendition would suit. There were several hypotheses about Rey being Obi's daughter, and while none of them came true, he may still be included in the trilogy. With Luke alone on Ashta, he may easily have been visited by a Force ghost version of Obi-Wan, as well as the reappearance of Yoda, and Johnson was fully aware of this and took it into consideration. Moving on, interviews and Johnson shed some more light into Ewan's case. Johnson addressed the issue in an interview with The Playlist, saying that he would have liked to have had Ewan McGregor in the movie, but it was simply a question of storytelling. He then went on to discuss the complexities of utilizing McGregor, noting that might have made sense if Alec Guinness had still been alive, but Luke never interacted with the Ewan version of Obi-Wan. Makes sense to us. Don't put such a stellar character in there if it won't make sense in the holistic picture of the series. Better not to entirely not introduce a character than to bring them in with zero sense to the story and ruin their standing. While many fans would have liked to see Ewan return to his role before his own series, Johnson makes a valid argument. Seeing the younger Obi-Wan again would be strange from a chronological standpoint, especially because Alec Guinness's version appears as a Force ghost at the conclusion of Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Johnson predicted that as a result, there would be less of an emotional connection, which would have been a bit weird. Good thinking, Star Wars. Next, we were given subtle hints in previous Star Wars movies. Rogue One, a Star Wars story on the other hand, was released a year before The Last Jedi and contained CGI actors who had since died. A computer-generated Leia is revealed at the conclusion, and CGI Tarkin plays a significant role in the film. However, opinions on this were varied, as while the technology is undeniably excellent, an air of shadiness remains. It's also unclear whether McGregor was made aware of his probable return or whether he would have accepted the post if offered. He just agreed to portray Obi-Wan in his own program, although he seemed to be done with the series for a time. With all the controversy surrounding The Last Jedi, it's probably for the best that he wasn't in it, since he's already had his fill of contentious Star Wars productions. In the end, regardless matter how The Last Jedi is received, most would conclude that McGregor had no place in the plot. His presence would have stood out as unnecessary fan service, and the encounter between Yoda and Luke stands on its own. And with the debut of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, they got McGregor back. Next up, Obi-Wan Kenobi also met his mentor Qui-Gon in a touching reunion. Lucasfilm has recently been knocking it out of the park with its Disney Plus releases ranging from The Mandalorian to Andor. The Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi were both released on the streaming site, with the latter reuniting Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor. Obi-Wan Kenobi was full of surprises, such as Princess Leia's importance to the storyline and a cameo by Liam Neeson. During the concluding moments of the series, Neeson appeared as Qui-Gon Jinn alongside McGregor's titular character. Obi-Wan rides a space camel into the desert, and Qui-Gon emerges as a Force ghost. Neeson hasn't said much about his role in the series, and he's now breaking his silence on the painful experience. Andor is the most current Star Wars series to arrive at Disney+. Luna reprises her role as Cassian Andor, one of the most intriguing characters in the Star Wars universe. Back in May, comicbook.com's Brandon Davis spoke with Andor's leading man at Star Wars Celebration, and he said that after seeing Andor, you won't think that Rogue One, a Star Wars story, was conceivable. Forward, Ewan McGregor may also be suited for a villain role. We think there's a missed opportunity here. Obi-Wan was in charge of raising the promised child, the savior of the Jedi, but he fostered a child who would grow up to destroy, cause mayhem, and be an instrument weapon for the Empire. All this would probably put his mentor in a very awkward position. Even though the series tried its level best to display Obi-Wan as quite remorseful of the aftermath, what if Obi-Wan could have been pushed off the tip? There's quite a possibility that he may have planned this all along, and the next series could shed light on this. For now, however, it's a wild thought, but just give this thought some breathing space, at least for now, you guys. Now, moving on to other news. Firstly, Andor is making waves. It's understandable understandable to be skeptical about the new Star Wars show. They're revealed at press conferences as a collection of titles and dates, sometimes with a few actors and a logline if the executives on stage are feeling kind. Art can emerge from this, but it isn't created in this manner. This is the cause of our early skepticism about Andor, and to be honest, any new Star Wars effort, even with the scant information we have. The Acolyte certainly sounds interesting. None of it counts until it's here, in front of us. The show must air, and each episode must persuade the audience to watch the next. Andor clinches it with this week's The Eye. Andor is arguably the finest live-action Star Wars program ever, and is well on its way to being one of the best Star Wars storylines since The Last Jedi. And it achieves it primarily by being really fantastic television, immersing you in the universe of Star Wars in a manner that only a TV program with a defined purpose and aim can. And what a stunning display that was. The title, Eye, casts a delicate green glow over any area with an outside view that is both seductive and foreboding. It's the type of effect that recasts mundane Star Wars moments, such as pilots stepping into their TIE fighters with fascinating elegance, providing an excellent contrast to the stressful scenes deep inside an Imperial vault where Andor's heroes risk their lives. Secondly, a Mon Mothma line could tease the return of a big villain. We're halfway through Season 1 of Tony Gilroy's Andor, and while the majority of the action has been concentrated on an Ocean's 11-inspired theft of an Imperial cargo on Aldhani, it's crucial to keep an eye out on what's been going on in other parts of the galaxy. The Eye concludes with the revelation that 80 million credits have been taken from under the Empire's nose. Mon Mothma, Genevieve O'Reilly, speaks about the planet Gorman and how the Empire is robbing its people of their rights by shutting off commerce as the word spreads around the Galactic Senate. Although we don't know if Mothma's measure is to safeguard this peaceful and reliable ally. The Senate is clearly vacant these days, but more is almost certainly present. Assuming the shrinking Senate focuses its attention on the rebel rebellion, situations in Gorman will only worsen, resulting in a cataclysmic event known as the Gorman Massacre. The Gorman Massacre is mentioned in the Star Wars Rebels episode Secret Cargo, in which Mothma denounces Palpatine as a lying executioner, departs with the crew of the Ghost, and subsequently broadcasts a message stating that she would fight on the front lines for the rebellion. Lastly, electroplating makes a Star Wars prop glow like new. 3D printing is notorious for manufacturing components with mediocre finishes. Even the smoothest resin prints have a plastic, lifeless look. However, if you get creative with electroplating, you can achieve much better. This thermal detonator prop by a company named Henedrick demonstrates how good a 3D print may look with some post-processing and chemical assistance. Henedrick began with an internet Star Wars thermal detonator model and printed it in resin for the most significant surface polish from the outset. After printing, the pieces were cleaned and cured using standard resin processing processes. Following that, fine steel wool and sandpaper were used to smooth down the print as much as possible. An airbrush was used to apply a conductive coating of copper paint, with many surfaces masked off to avoid damaging the fit. The result was truly stupendous. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about Obi-Wan almost getting a role in Star Wars The Last Jedi? Would it have made sense? Let us know in the comments below. It'd be truly awesome if you gave this video a thumbs up, and please don't forget to subscribe for more scrumptious videos like this. See you in the next one.